I will call a meeting of the Hillsboro School District to order and board order. Our first item is Francesca helping us with the parent advisory committee report discussion. And thanks everybody for being with us tonight.
I'm just going to kick us off and then turn it over to Fran. First of all, thanks everybody for being here. This is an opportunity that we want to do more often. We had a meeting a couple of weeks ago with the leadership of the various advisory committees, and we talked about set the agenda tonight. We also talked through, we revisited some of the meetings that we had with the board in PAC last year and what came out of those. And we're looking forward to this conversation and creating this opportunity on a more regular basis. So with that, Fran will lead them.
Everybody get a chance for food? You all have opportunity to get food, help yourself.
So I just want to make
The plan was sort of to have dinner together, I think, but we kind of, most of us already ate in the executive session, so. Yeah, we need another meatball.
Well, good evening. It's my pleasure to introduce to us our leaders of our three parent advisory committees. And we're thinking about translation, and Antonio's here. If he, Francisco, are you having translation or do you want headphones?
We're interpreting over with the devices, but we can do it here also. And also we were trying to do it over Zoom. We just unmute ourselves. Whatever you want to do, we're on.
¿Cómo es más fácil para usted? So, buenas noches y bienvenidos. Esta noche estoy feliz de presentar nuestros comités asesores de padres del distrito. Okay, welcome everyone and good evening. I'm pleased tonight to introduce you to some of our PAC leaders. We have three PACs inside our HSD family. We have the Black Village Family Advisory Committee. We have our Latino, the Founding Fathers Latino PAC. And then we also have our Native American Indigenous Peoples PAC. Tonight, representing for them, our president, who is the chair on it, is currently stationed overseas right now. But she can introduce herself. She has just joined on to be our Joseph, who's going to be supporting. So today she's just going to introduce herself, and then we'll get started with the presentation.
I'm Barb Franco. I am currently a digital tech TOSA, but now I'm also taking on the community education TOSA role. I'm really excited to be a part of this work in this community. I have been involved with the Native American community for over 20 years. So I'm really excited to be here.
And then would you guys like to introduce yourselves, including you, Sir Ray? Let's start off with you since you're the first on camera.
You want me to start?
Yeah, if you can introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi, I'm Saray. I am part of the leadership with Black Village, and I want to thank you for having me. It's an honor to be in this space.
Thank you.
And I'm Olson Miller. I'm also co-leading the Black Village, parent of two in the Hillsboro School District.
Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Francisca Alonso. Soy presidenta de PAC del Distrito Escolar de Hillsboro y también soy presidenta de la escuela donde asiste mi niña, que es la Hillsboro. Tengo dos hijos, uno está en la universidad y la otra está en el 4º grado. Y bienvenido. Gracias por invitarme.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Francisca Alonso, and I am the president of the Latino PAC. I am also the president of the Latino PAC at my elementary school, W.L. and I have 4 students. I'm sorry, Eastwood. You know Spanish. She said Eastwood. And I have 2 students in the school.
Hello, my name is Jorge Martinez. I am a member of the PAC, the Latino Parents Advisory Committee. I'm new into the district PAC, but I'm happy to be here. So thank you for having me.
And so, what we wanted to come, Olga and I are fellow princesses, we like to say, along with Mike, he can be a prince. We wanted to introduce, you all to our CAC. We find such value and such importance in what our parent advisory committee provides for us, and want to support the endeavors that they are encountering with our students, so we can make HSD even better than what it is.
La señora Francesca está presentando la diapositiva, hablando sobre quiénes son el equipo que va a trabajar en colaboración con el superintendente, ¿verdad? En esta jornada. Next slide. Las metas de esta noche son las siguientes. The goals that we have for you tonight are on the screen, and we have the three main goals are understanding what the role of tech, we will learn that tonight, is, and as well as reviewing our collective understanding from the feedback that we have received from our parents in the last year. And then the last one is prioritizing the prioritizing the needs with actionable steps moving forward. Next slide. And then we are going to have our parents present or talk a little bit about the role of TAC. I'm just going to give you a general overview of the information that we've gathered in our work, collective work with them. And the purpose of the PAC meetings and we've been coming together is to advise HSD staff and administrators on matters related to parent involvement in the school system, and to make recommendations regarding state policies, guidelines, grants, projects, and other matters of interest to district staff, the district as an organization, and the parent as a organization.
And one thing we've done differently this year than we have in the past is each PAC group has elevated 2 people who will meet with Mike and a team, so that we can make sure that our goals are aligned and that we're moving together. The leaders will then take it back to their own individual PACs, but that bridge and starting that connection between district office and the leaders that are in our PACs started about 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. We had our first meeting where we all came together and started the conversations on finding our commonalities and working together as this elevated group. I do want to recognize too, David Steinhauer has popped online, and he is also supporting the work that Cyree and Olson are doing. So, hi, David.
Hi, Fran. Hi, everyone.
Just didn't want to ignore you. So in the next slide, our PACs are going to read what their roles and responsibilities are according to the bylaws, and Olga will read for a Native American PAC. And you don't have to read that, but you can summarize it. But we can start off with Francisca.
Las responsabilidades del Comité Consultivo de Padres, PAC por sus siglas en inglés, son incorporarse bajo las directrices de los programas del distrito, así como otros programas, colaborar con los administrativos de las escuelas del distrito escolar de Hillsboro, desarrollar planes de implementación para la educación migrante, bilingüe y otros programas. El Comité Consultivo de Padres hará recomendaciones para la aprobación de las propuestas del distrito y los proyectos dentro del área. Y otras de las responsabilidades como PAC es abogar por los estudiantes latinos y familias latinas. Gracias.
Also, are you or
It'll be me.
okay.
So the Black Village Family Advisory Committee, the responsibilities of the Black
Nuestra
Village
responsabilidad de como Black Village
are to advocate for the needs of students and families of
es abogar por las
students
necesidades de los estudiantes y de las
or
familias
in
de los
part as Black, African American, African attending Hillsboro School District schools. As a Hillsboro School District Supporting Parent Advisory Committee, we aim to support students and families by identifying potential barriers and inequities which hinder the academic experience for Black students, and then advocating for them in communication with the district, school board, administrators, faculty, and staff.
Señora Francisca, el PAC para las familias latinoamericanas, la inscripción la tiene en la presentación que yo le di, ¿verdad? No la tengo que leer todo eso, ¿verdad?
No, yo la tengo.
She read it. Yes, and I will read the next. I just wanted to make sure that she understood the middle part. The Native American Alaska Native PAC has advised agency staff members on matters concerning planning, development, administering, and evaluation of district's Title VI program. And consequently make recommendations regarding state and federal policies, guidelines, projects, proposals, and other matters of interest to the Native American PAC. To gather input on district programs and policies and to provide educational and other culturally specific opportunities and promote community and lifelong learning.
Thank you. Next slide. And so we wanted to read those of the next one after that. We wanted to read those to you so that you have a good understanding of what their bylaws are stating. And then on this next slide, I'll review it in English. It's a breakdown of how our parent advisory committees are, how they work and who helps and support. So we have three PAC groups that I mentioned before, the Latinx, Latino, Latina, Native American, and Black Village. Each of them have technical support and each of them have an admin support. And then we also have three family engagements, which are Asian Pacific Islanders, Special Education, and the Mesoamerican Family Engagement Group. Each of those also have a technical support and an admin support person assigned to them. In each of those groups, there is also a TOSA, teacher on special assignment. One may be here today, who are assigned to each of the groups for support. And in the special education one, there is also an additional person that comes to most of those groups so that they're there to answer any questions too.
The next slide provides the same information. Señora Francisca, el diapositivo que usted está viendo provee la información que acaba de explicar la señora Francesca. Y tiene los nombres de los grupos de PAC y quién va a apoyar a cada uno de los grupos. Usted también tiene copias.
Sí.
Thank you. Next slide.
Mike's going to start talking on this next slide and then I'll join in after.
So one of the things we did after we had the meetings where the PAC joined the board last year, one of the things we did is we went back and reviewed the notes and the concerns and the hopes as we move forward. And there were two areas that were commonalities in there. One being communication, the need to improve communication between the groups that were represented as well as the school district. And I should just say the school district, the school, as well as the school district. And then the other one was just making sure that we're diversifying our staff in a deliberate way. So those were the two areas that were common. And by sharing these commonalities, I don't want people to think that just grouping the PACs all together and the same needs. That is not the case. These are just happen to be the commonalities that existed. There's also discrete needs and hopes for the future among each of the PACs as individual groups. So I just wanted to share that, and we'll let Fran kind of move forward.
Absolutely, Mike. Each of the groups have just focus areas that they want to work on given the group that they identify with. However, we were able to find these commonalities. So in the next two sections, Olga and I are going to facilitate the conversation of what we presented when we met together. And then we're going to open it up for discussion with our PAC members and those that are online to add in. And the conversation we went over is that when they are adding to it, with any potential problem, any ideas for solving them, any potential solutions that they have. Now would be a good time for us to hear it, because part of that advocacy and advising is also offering support so that we know we can work in collaboration with all of you to make this better. And so we're going to talk about each of those two specific areas and know that each of the focal groups have distinct things that they also need to go into. That doesn't include these, but this gave us a starting point for us to be able to move forward and work together. So on the next slide. Communication. Is this you all? Okay, so some of the feedback that we got from when we're talking about one of our areas of focus or potentials for growth was our communication process. And so we talked about what's going well, the trends where we saw communication breaking down, and next steps with communication. So I'm going to offer and open up to any of our PAC members who would like to talk about what we talked about and or offer any solutions for how you feel we can move forward. And if there is any solutions that you have at this point, at least just recognizing that you are bringing this forward is what we'll focus on tonight. Okay.
Señora Francisca, en la diapositiva anterior, la señora desarrolló sobre los comentarios que fueron proporcionados por ustedes y las tres metas que ustedes, las metas que ustedes identificaron, que eran la comunicación, la diversidad, el reclutamiento y la revisión de personas, ¿verdad? Entonces, esas son las áreas en las que ustedes recomendaron. Y en la diapositiva que tiene ahorita, les voy a dar la oportunidad para que opinen si hay alguna información adicional que quieren compartir en base a la actividad que hicimos la vez que nos reunimos con el superintendente hace más de una semana. Entonces, ahorita va a abrir la puerta para comentarios.
Who would like to start?
Thank you.
Well, in my experience, it seems like we have a lot of pressure of bringing families into the schools. I belong to the Reedville school district. That's where my son is, Reedville. And for last year that I participated, we were only 4 parents in that community. My wife and myself and another friend. And something that I would like to see as part of the communication is taking facts more in consideration when they're getting information to parents. If we're going to be the ones inviting and reviewing and making sure that the community is having information that they understand in a level of Spanish that makes sense for them. Also in different formats that they will be willing to receive, such as a link so they can properly obtain the information on paper. I would like to see that as a possibility where schools are showing us information that is going to be provided, so we have a better chance to reach the specific parents. So that's something that I would like to see on my side.
So over the last few years, I think our district has, learned a lot of lessons about how to communicate to families. And one of the things that I've kind of learned myself is because it's effective for most parents and most families, it's not necessarily effective for all of us. That's part of the culturally responsive approach to how we're going to do this. And when I say this, I point out to the fact that in the last few years, communication will go out about our PAC meetings and things like that. But in our attendance, there's a noticeable difference. In the attendance, who show up are the ones that are hounded. And I'm going to say hounded because specifically for the Black Village, many of the additional parents who show up are ones that came from my school that I taught at, because I gave the personal reach out and I said, hey, I expect to see you there. And we weren't seeing a lot of parents from other schools, which means across the entire district, we have a problem. We have a problem that says it's either our parents don't care or it's not effective how they're getting the information. And I definitely refuse to believe that our parents don't care. So the effectiveness of how we're communicating is, and parents seeing that, hey, this actually is for you to join in and not just another blast of Remind or Seesaw or on the district website or the hot news as a quick link. we've got to think about a different approach. There's not that many families. I think about, there's years I've been in the district where phone banks. Let's go with the personal touch of how to reach out to families or strategically reach out to some and say, hey, how about you now reach out to a few more? To try something different that we've not done, because what we've done with all the data, with all the technology just doesn't seem to be working.
Saray or David, do you have anything to add?
Not at this time.
Ms. Francisca, do you have anything?
Yes, I would like to add something. So as an advisory committee, as you can see when he read our rules and our responsibilities, is not only to advise to the district, but we also advise to our community with resources. So I would just like to add, in addition to what Olson is saying, when it comes to policy, procedures, and protocol, I think that when there's a change in protocol from the district, it should automatically be sent to the PAD. For instance, the situation with the discrimination forms, they have changed from last year, and we did not know the protocol to give to our families. And we don't know the supervisor, or anything of that nature. So I think procedures, policies, and protocols should automatically be updated with the PAD.
Francisca, do you have anything you want to add?
¿Tiene un comentario, algo que quiere añadir sobre cómo está funcionando, lo que necesita mejoramiento?
Sí, creo que fue una de las preocupaciones que nosotros dijimos cuando nos reunimos con el superintendente en una reunión que tuvimos grupos de padres, que estamos hablando sobre nuestros estudiantes están sufriendo discriminación en las escuelas, principalmente los estudiantes que son minorías, y es importante que los administradores y nosotros como padres pongamos acción en eso. Necesitamos más apoyo, más información para cómo poder apoyar a nuestros estudiantes.
Yes, that's one of the things that we talked about when we had the last meeting, the PAC meeting. Our students are suffering from discrimination, especially the minorities, and we'd like to the administrators take more action about this topic.
So if I could surmise what you guys said or put together what you guys said, it was talking about looking at other forms of communication, potentially a phone call, a good old fashioned phone. That most is not all people when we're talking about getting communication. You'd like to be able to advise with your resources. And if there's a big change in protocol, you'd like information on that and how it's set to staff so that you have that communication that you can share with your families. And Ms. Francisca had said that as part of the communication is administrators taking action and being able to communicate that back to you. Okay. Anything else for the good of the order before we go to the next one?
Really show the English side just so I can see.
Sure.
Okay, so in thinking about communication, and it was mentioned about how to report incidents, I think one of the things I thought about was it's a faceless process right now. It's, the Google form, you fill out, you go to the form, you fill it out. And the problem with that is when you're being extremely vulnerable and reporting something that is really hard to do, is I think about myself as, having as a child done similar and then as a grown up, it's still a hard process. I think the way that we communicate these type of incidents might need to be changed to a more of a person on the other end of the line, because when you just type it in and you hope that someone is reading it and someone will respond to it, I think if it's a matter of a hot call to someone in the district, hearing the voice of, okay, I truly care that this is happening. I'm not gonna solve it here, but I'm gathering information for you. That makes a big difference versus typing it in and hoping that it's gonna be addressed. Because a lot of our families do not know the hierarchy or the dynamic of how things are reported. I know that, when there's incidents, there's the report to the teacher, report it to the principal, report it to the principal's supervisor, then it gets higher than that, but many of the families do not know that, because honestly, many of our families do not have the privilege of, like myself, who I've worked in the district for 15 years. There's a difference that I think we need to be very mindful of, stepping back and saying, how can we get rid of barriers that some of us may not be aware that those are barriers.
And at the end, we're gonna have an opportunity for the board to ask questions. We're gonna move on to diversification as gap and get some feedback on that. Olga, you want to introduce this one?
In the diversification of staff, the recommendations that came about from the last few sessions that we've had together is that, and also from the presentation that we had from Hannah from HR, they are recommending that we continue to prioritize staff diverse, highly diverse staff, and also start diving into pathways, perhaps some programs and partnerships that can support that process of increasing the diversity of the staff. Financial supports and grants. It was found that was very little information coming out to families and the virtual opportunities related to financial support. And then the last one is ways that they can support HSD for in the hiring process. Perhaps panels or processing. We're looking at the process and understanding the process better as to how that is done in the schools. That was the last one. Oh, sorry. Now I would like to open it up to the questions or any additional comments. I have on the back.
Well, as part of the recommendations to the diverse hiring, I've seen the need of course hiring more personnel at local schools that understand the language and can support the learning of children by the parents. But going back into a little bit into the communication piece, it's my understanding that the PAC is also available to review specific processes that the schools are taking. And many times we just are informed about specific programs, specific situations that are happening at the school without us giving a chance to provide feedback. So it will be very beneficial as part of the communication to increase the participation of the PAC. And that will help the PAC reaching to parents and explaining about the financial support and the grants and some other benefits that the school might be able to provide. That was on one of the recommendations.
Okay, to address the staff diversity hire, I think in the meeting that we had previously, I know that the data was shared that our district's diversity increased from like 21 something percent to 31 plus. And I think the question I still always ask is, when we say diverse, it really needs to be broken down a little bit more. And I say that because, it's not a new thing to understand that, representation matters. And the fact that there's study, even in state of Oregon, we have studies that's shown that when you have a person that represent the demographic of your students, graduation rates increase. And it doesn't have to be your teacher. It's a matter of seeing that person in that space. And I struggle with part of the idea of, hiring someone just because they're diverse, but it's also the fact that our population is diverse. And that's not just a race, that's not just when it comes to gender, that's not just religion, we're talking about language. It's the fact that the population that we have needs to see themselves represented in order to see the potential for growth. If I see someone being successful that looks like, who grew up in my neighborhood, that gives me the hope that I could also achieve that. And I know for myself, I did not have that growing up, and that's a very different approach to myself being the first generation, I'm the first generation high school graduate in my family, first generation college graduate, the first generation with a master's degree. And all that is not because I saw examples, it was for myself, who was not seeing those examples. So I think when we think about diverse hires, it's important to, definitely think about how do we do that? And I thought about being the one and only is never a safe space to be. And, I think about batch hires, which is at least 2 in any space, if possible. That way there is the camaraderie that can be gained from that. For myself, I have been the one and only for many years when I taught in the district. And that, I know that across the district, we have the affinity group space. And I think this is something that when developed more, it could continue to be great. The Pathways program, my PACT, the Black Village, met with some of the programs. They reached out to us and met with us. And one of the struggles that they want to address was that when they were giving out the scholarships and in the Grow Your Own program, Black students were not represented very well. And it's not just because there's no Black students, it's the programs were not necessarily targeted towards them. And some families are misinformed about the fact that these opportunities exist for all of our kids.
Saray or David, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, this is David. Yeah, I was just going to add on to Olson. I think it'd be important, moving forward. We did look at like the diversity numbers, but I think that we should segment them out into, Black, Latino, women, however you may, and then set realistic targets to achieve. Because I think I forget the number for Black teachers and what that is, but if it's, hey, by 2024 we want to reach an increase of 3% or this, I think that should be determined and then shared as well, just so that we know where we're at and we can measure it. That may already be in the works as well, but just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Saray, how are you doing?
No, I don't want to add anything. I just second behind what David and Olson said. I think they said it very well.
Thank you. Okay, so next one. So as a group, we prioritize these needs and what it can look like in their packs. And even from the last meeting to this meeting, I've gotten 2 pages more of notes of ideas, thanks to your contribution tonight, of different things we can intentionally focus on. But at this time, we want to open it up. A lot was said, and not necessarily for Olga and I, but if there are questions that the school board has for any of our PAC members, now would be our time for some questions.
On here. Anybody online? Lisa, Sheehan, Erica?
I don't have any questions, but just thank you very much.
I also don't have any question in the moment, but I would just like to say thank you because I'm a little bit newer than my colleagues to the board, and I've been, like all of us, we do our best to reach out to the community and get as much input as we can when we're called upon to make decisions. But there are so many people in the community from all different backgrounds, and so there's voices we can't hear. It's just a matter of time. And so what you do in bringing together parents and bringing forward the key points that they're sharing with you so that we can take them into account is a really valuable service. So thank you for what you're doing.
Looks like Nancy has her hand up.
Thank you, Chair Watson. Sincere thanks to everyone from all of the PACs for being here tonight and for conveying and communicating your authentic truth. I always appreciate that. As you all know, I have a very special affinity for the PAC and is the basis upon which I am here today. So thank you very much for bringing all of your thoughts and concerns. And we deeply appreciate it. Anything else that we can do for you all, please, please, please let us know. And we deeply appreciate you. Thank you.
We had this slide that sort of differentiated the other groups from PAC. What do we use as a differentiator between a PAC and the group, say the support we provide for the AAPI community?
Travis, you want to?
Yeah, historically, the PACs originated originally with the Title I-C program, the migrant education program. The federal government required that we form a PAC to inform migrant summer school and migrant programs. And then we expanded that to be more comprehensive with the Latinx community, the Latino community, Latina community. And then when we developed a Title VII, now Title VI program, which serves Native American Indigenous families, we took over responsibility for another federal grant, which required a similar structure that we'd be informed by family groups. And then we decided to expand that, especially in light of the Student Success Act and the Student Success Plan for families that identify as Black, African American, and African. That plan required us to manage resources with information from families that identify as Black, African American, or African. And so what we're doing is slowly expanding, especially when we have money and resources to manage the best of our ability. We think it's our responsibility to engage parent voice and how we do that, how we develop and implement programs. The group did a great job of explaining kind of the responsibility to guide our implementation of those things. And then outside of that, when we saw the AAPI, the Mesoamerican group, and then the group of students who are connected, families connected to students who have IEPs. Those groups are groups that we scoop up into parent engagement evenings and events so that we can get advised by them too as administration. Those aren't connected to specific grant resources or, it's not as structurally tied to the money. It's more about the source of the students with our general budgets. The differentiation is really like how those federal programs were funded, and then also just the groups of traditionally underserved students for whom we believe it's the best practice to engage families. A question we get asked sometimes is how come there's not a group of parents for everyone? And the answer to that in short is that we are really strategic about outreaching to families of students who are ethnically traditionally underserved in our system.
Anybody else have questions? Nancy, you have a question? There's that hand from before. Yeah. The idea of sort of having the PACs elevate two people to sort of be a liaison. The sort of, so would they, how do we anticipate the chaotic nature of life and people moving in and out? Like how consistent do we expect those two people to be? And will we always be sort of having new people in those roles from year to year, maybe?
I would guess, since it's brand new, that it would be from year to year, and the hope would be, if not once a semester, maybe once a quarter. It won't be, we just met once and we'll never see, we're not coming back together again. Some of our groups are in transition of voting in new board chair people, chair officers. And so that will change and that will shift, but hopefully from our work this year together, we'll lay that groundwork for us, being able to collaborate together. I also think it's a great opportunity for us, for our families to see us in not in this kind of, you know, in this kind of atmosphere where we actually can just have conversations. Our PACs will still come and do a presentation throughout the year, and they'll talk specifically about their PAC, but we thought this would be a good opportunity for us to really bridge that connection with them, and at least with the few that we have exposure in an atmosphere that's different than a board meeting, it would build that relationship and that connection.
And add one more ask of the board in the district. As a parent of a student that Black, that had biracial, that identifies as Black, I would love to see a little bit more being done. A little bit more being done to address some racist things that's happening. I think the fact that in our schools, our students, and I say our as in Black Village specifically, and I know that was also mentioned that there's racism and discrimination happening to many of our marginalized children. Racism is an ACE. It's one of the ACEs, and I know that as a school district, you're working really hard to be culturally responsive and also to implement CASEL, being social emotional learning being a new focus. I would like to see more being done. I would like to see teachers being asked into a space that has not necessarily been done recently. As I look behind me, I see a person that is a member of the Anti-Racist, Anti-Bias Teacher Coalition, who is also the president of the local teacher association. And I would like to see more intentional professional development being done to teach our teachers how to interrupt, and then how to work on creating how to not just interrupt, but also to build into once harm is done. From the first day of school, my daughters endured microaggressions, and many of our Black Village family members who joined in our leadership, it's because they have joined through trauma, through the fact that their children have experienced something, whether it be elementary, middle, or high school, and then we would love for us to be able to share in how awesome our community is and thrive, and not just in the fact that we share the experiences of our kids start to really hate going to school and being questioned about race or being called the N-word and it being a joke too often. So that's my ask for the district and the board. Thank you.
Part of the Latino PAC, I just wanted to reinforce that we're experiencing the same situations. I believe safety is one of the biggest issues right now, even in our community. I hear parents talking about fights in specific schools. The school not having enough staff to help us just breaking into those habits and just keeping our children safe. So I really appreciate the space and the time for you guys to let us share these issues with all of you. But it will be great to hear what will be the plan for you guys to reach to the local schools and really reinforce the need to connect into the park, to listen to the needs. And hopefully having enough funding for the parks to have training for parents in all aspects, safety, discrimination, and other topics that might be in the best interest of the two sides, the schools and parents. So that will be my feedback from you. So thank you.
Any other questions? Well, I too would like to thank you all for being here and stepping up into these roles. I know it probably wasn't easy to just say, "If you're, I'll do it." So anytime you step up, it puts a target on it sometimes. So thank you for doing that. And yeah, I look forward to our future engagements. Yeah. Nancy?
Sorry, I apologize. The last time I was trying to come off of mute. I think ultimately what I'm hearing, I hear you loud and clear with regard to you being all of the PACs. And what I would also like to see is that we provide and communicate a very clear escalation plan for any student and any parent who experiences anything that isn't part of a positive learning environment, and a path of escalation for them should they not get the appropriate response that they feel is necessary at the local level. I think part of this is that it does me no good if my child comes home and tell me that something happened, but I tell the teacher and it goes nowhere. Or I tell the principal and it goes nowhere. At the least, I think we should be able to articulate some type of escalation plan so that they can bring this directly to either the board or superintendent, however you would like to lay it out. But I think that would help. And then, of course, communicating that in all necessary languages so that all parents are aware of that, and starting with the PAC to flow that information out. That's my comment.
Yeah, and what you said before resonated with me pretty heavily, like fill out a web form, and how do you know anybody's gonna read that? Like that's like so many times I've just done that and gone, all right, if it goes into the ether, it's gonna be followed up on, so yeah, I am a big proponent of solve problems at the lowest level possible. So figuring out how we can build that feedback loop into the local schools, would be important. Yeah, Patrick.
I just want to mention, I really appreciate what you said, and I think that I want to hold our district and ourselves accountable for making progress. And so the more specific you can be down the road in telling us where we are and where we aren't making progress, the better we can do in that, I think. So in 3 months and 6 months, a year, you say, this is where we've seen progress, this is where we haven't seen progress, the specific steps that still need to be taken, the better, I think, for us to be able to make sure that's being happening.
Thank you guys so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is Beth, and she's got to put the bill on.
Just making sure Lauren has.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
So we just finished a very exciting student voice session. So that was wonderful. We were upstairs with 16 of our high school students.
That was in there?
That was in there, yes. And Lauren led them through some activities similar to what we've done, which is reviewing data and giving their feedback on kind of trends they saw, positives, negatives, wonderings, and then they gave some feedback on their idea of what they would like for themselves and their colleagues to know and be able to demonstrate and do upon their graduation. So I'm sure Lauren has a lot more to share with you, but it was really great to see the kids so engaged. And even though our next session is virtual, they all asked, most of them asked if we could come together in person and we could all be together, even though Lauren will need to join us virtually. And I said, absolutely, anytime you want to come together, let's do it. So very exciting.
Is mostly high school students, middle school?
High school students, yeah. While we sought feedback from every grade level in the spring to like get our data set, now that we're kind of in the frame of giving us gut check, reality check, we have a more set team of high school students for that.
Yvette, how would you describe how it went?
I think it was a pretty good session just for everyone to speak their minds and how they feel about the feedback. And how, us as students or us as schools should improve on and just give feedback on like last year and what's happening this year, just like, I guess, compare and contrast. And there was a lot of things where there was positive feedback and also little things we need to improve on. And it's wonderful just to hear how other students think and their perspective on school.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing what you're doing. It's lovely to be here in person, not on a little owl. Had a great day. Started out this morning with the site leaders at the K-12 meeting, doing some work. And we just had the student voice, and now we're here. I have a brief update just to really, it's to update you on where we are in the process. There's not substantial more to review at this point. I'm spending all day tomorrow with the Hillsboro teams. We have our many teams meeting tomorrow in our community forum. So I just want to quickly orient you to where we are and take any questions that are coming up from you in the process. So you can go, we'll move quickly through these. You can go to the next couple slides. This is one of our, foundational slides, and we always come back to it because it reminds us of our purpose in doing strategic planning. And the real purpose of strategic planning is around alignment. It's not necessarily about having, the beautiful brochure at the end, but it's around making sure that we have the conversations necessary, that we have a shared understanding of where we need to go on behalf of the students in the system. And it was really great to see that transpiring today. You can skip forward to the next slide. Thank you. So today, just as a reminder of the teams that we have, today we met with the principal and administrator team. We have the student voice team. They actually did very similar things and things that are similar to what you all have done, which they started with the data. They actually processed the survey data from students and made meaning from what they had learned from that data to identify what they saw as the greatest strength and areas of need. And then the students provided input on the portrait of a graduate that kind of did their own design process that we'll use as a reality check against what the teams have created. It was just a really engaging session. But over the course of the next few days, we're going to be meeting with instructional focus team, as well as the community forum and the core planning team. We'll go to the next slide to give you a sense of where we are in the process. We're mid-process. So what's in the darker kind of blacker blue color is what's transpired, and red are the forthcoming meetings. I wanted to highlight that we've added an additional session for the core planning team and the instructional focus team. And that those are because we're integrating in even more of the community feedback. I'll talk a little bit about some of the community feedback that we're gathering over the next couple of weeks, excuse me. And then in addition, the students were advocating for more meetings. So I'm at the end of it. And so I think we're going to be adding a January meeting with the students as well, as a way to bring back kind of the results of the data. It's the best, the best compliment when they want to keep hanging out. Now, there was a lot of pizza. There was a lot of pizza, but I think that the key themes around just wanting voices to be heard and elevated is an important part of it. So we have a few more things to firm up, but that's where we are. We have our in-person community forum that's going to be tomorrow, and that we have this. We'll be repeating that virtually. It's the same session. It's going to be held on the 27th. So if community members can't attend on the 12th in person, or if they prefer not to attend in person, they can attend virtually on the 27th, and that will be the same information. In addition, there's a community survey that's going to be shared out to gather more input from the Hillsboro school district community. So both parents as well as anybody, whether or not they're connected directly to the school district, to be providing that input, and that survey is going to be open in next week and held open until November 4th. So we're gathering some sort of larger input into the process as we go forward. I want to just commend the team for advocating for and working to ensure that we're really reaching the diverse voices and perspectives of the larger community. And we are, as Performance Factor, open to adapting and considering additional approaches to make sure that all of those perspectives are incorporated into the process. I think that that's pretty much all I'm covering today. To be honest, I want to save our next update. We'll be digging more into the actual goals and measures and all those pieces. And the reason I'm waiting on that is we just gathered pages and pages and pages of feedback from students, from we're going to gather from the community, from the principals, and there's going to be revisions that are going to happen as a result. We also got your feedback at the last meeting. So we look forward to our next engagement, which I believe is November 2BB. So we'll get that date firmed up, and at that point, you're going to see really starting to see kind of the draft coming together of the plan itself. So I'm excited for that.
The other thing you might want to mention is the staff sessions that we added.
Oh, thank you. They're not on that.
They
are. I just missed them. So yes, okay. In addition, we're having 2 staff engagement sessions. So these are on the 20th, October 20th and October 27th. They will be virtual, they'll be run after school, and it's an opportunity for all staff. It's not just campus-based, it says campus department, but also departmental, so it could be district staff to come, and they'll be doing a little bit of what everybody does, which is understand a little bit of the data that we're building a plan around, right? And then providing input on guidance on their suggestions, right? For what should be incorporated in the plan in terms of the goals for all students, as well as the strategies to reach those goals. So those will be just coming up in a couple weeks. So October is a busy planning month for the process. There's going to be a lot of material generated, and I appreciate everybody's time and attention to the process.
Thanks for being with us after a long day.
Yeah, it's going to be even longer tomorrow. I'm excited.
All right.
I'm looking forward to the community tomorrow.
What's worth November TBD, we just had one board meeting in November.
Yeah.
I think it probably easy to figure out.
We'll probably be easy to figure out. We'll just have to make sure. It might, do you have it? Yeah, we'll get it. We'll get it set. No,
Just the one.
yeah, okay. All right, great.
Questions?
Questions or?
I don't see anyone there. November 15th, is there working? We have just one in November and one in December with Thanksgiving break and holiday break.
Okay, I'll look at the 15th, I think I'm here. So I'll see if I can make that one.
Any other questions?
Just, there was an error on the presentation. Yeah, that the second staff session, it says the 27th, but that was actually the voice session. So the second staff session is the 25th. There's one, that note.
I was planning to come, and board members can come tomorrow night's community event, right?
Yeah, that would be fabulous.
Just to hang out, not to be like. Yeah.
We might make you a table facility.
We might make you a table facility.
I'd planned to come, but I think I was told I'm doing something else now.
Oh,
So,
yeah. But you can also come to the online session if you're available. And yeah, so
that's 27.
yes, that one's 27.
yeah. That was,
We have a calendar right for that early girls.
I don't know. Okay.
that was 5:30 to 7 on Zoom on the 27th, the second community forum.
Did anybody get to say that Lauren as a skilled facilitator had 70 administrators fully engaged for like multiple minutes?
Multiple.
Yeah.
It's remarkable to have principals pay attention to something.
Yes.
Well done.
What I thought was really exciting, and you might not have still been in the room. You might have still been in the room to hear it, but we developed like a focus group tool for then shared with our administrative team, and it's meant for family engagement liaisons and anyone really who wants to conduct basically a more personal feedback session with an individual, a group of individuals, families, language learners, students, whatever that group may be, but they're 4 open-ended questions, and we gave them a note-taking tool. And what was really heartwarming, I thought, was hearing them all talk about, with all their ideas about how many different thoughts they had about wanting to run that process with different groups. So I think we're going to get a lot of really great engagement out of it, a lot of great feedback. And in what for some will be a much more authentic way to provide that feedback than just filling out a survey. So.
Lauren, just to manage our expectations, when you do community forums like we're going to have tomorrow night, how well received is that typically? Or is it all over the board, just depending?
Is what, is how well received is what?
How?
You mean well attended?
How well attended was it?
Okay.
How many people are gonna be there?
Well, I mean, I know you can't tell. Traditionally, does the community come out for this kind of thing? Or is it, what do you typically see?
It's a huge range.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with, just communication and, reminders. They have reminders, which I'm sure are
Got lots of those.
gotta be happening. So I think you have a solid communication, plan in place. But it ranges, and I think that a lot of people will want to be there, and then life happens, and that's why having an additional session is really helpful. We also, though I forgot to mention, are gonna have an additional kind of just like, well, we had the survey, not the input survey, but yeah, we'll see. We're prepared for as many, we'll be ready.
Exit the big room with the room.
Yeah. Should be good.
Hard to get principals to pay attention.
No, I didn't mean it that way.
Did you just need principals?
Yeah. There's a lot that's on their minds. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
That is our agenda for today. I guess with that, discussion time, you can keep us on. If you have anything you want to add tonight, you've probably been talking a ton today, right?
Well, not really. I just really enjoyed being here. I'm sorry I came late. Yeah, just it has been pretty good. I've seen a lot of good things at my school. So yeah.
Guessing be a marching band. It's October. Oh, and homecoming too. All right. Superintendent, time, I meant to ask before, if there's any reflections to share from the virtual Spanish language conference at that, because I was unable to do that.
If you want to kick it off, I can.
Sure. I think it was great to be able to fold into the existing Latino PAC meeting because they have a really great attendance level anyway. So we had about 50 parents that participated, which is great. And really appreciate our language liaison team for interpreting for us. That was great. And took the opportunity to share a little bit about strategic planning and about our focal areas for the year, climate, culture, voice, and social emotional learning. And then shared a little bit about our health and safety protocols. There were some pre-populated questions that we had received in advance that parents said they wanted to know more about safety precautions, more as it relates to kind of that physical safety and which we shared about our security trio work and whatnot, but also bullying, that notion of bullying. There was a question around if there's money available to school-based PACs to do professional development or training. I think I came in late, but it sounded like that theme was also brought up here, that desire for some training. So we kind of committed to taking care of that kind of from a district level focus. And then the third question was around, I think there was a feeling of they're wondering how effective school-based communication is to parents because they feel like there isn't as much participation as they might like to see in some of the activities that happen at the school level. And I think just wanting to talk through, is it a communication issue? Is it an issue with the things that are being offered? What is it that's keeping people maybe from participating? So
We've been reviewed with them, how to volunteer and just the process to go through. But it was, I thought it was a pretty positive session. We shared information that we just wanted them to be aware of, like an update on our COVID procedures, those kind of things. And then we'd receive questions from on and on. And then the three topics that came up.
So we also shared about job openings and opportunities for classified, and then to get into grow your own programs if anyone had the desire to become a bilingual educator, bilingual stipend. We shared a link to one of our bus driver videos that we recently completed. We gave them QR codes to the website for jobs and substitute website.
We may have turned a portion into a shameless recruiting opportunity. Maybe just a little.
Thanks.
It was good response.
Sorry, I wasn't able to make it. The superintendent's time.
I don't.
We should just really give appreciation though to Travis and Lindsay for being able to deliver all of their information in Spanish. That had to be so appreciated by the group. So great job.
In a classic moment, thanks for bringing it up. I was able to say, your student can return to school 24 years after they're done with the year.
Oh.
I mean, are you sure you wouldn't 24 años? Because that's a long time. To learn, lifelong learning.
Yeah.
We'll start a new, we always start online. Start here. Patrick, do anything you want to hear tonight?
One thing I was talking with a policy advocate in California about was their recent law that passed their implementing the requirement statewide that in line with the American Academy of Pediatrics guidelines on school start times, that no schools can start before 8:30 a.m. And so I'd be interested, I know that we are already in line with that recommendation, but I'd be interested in how we consider school start times. I know there's a lot that goes into it, but I just want to put my 2 cents in that I take seriously what the experts say, and that adolescents are often not getting as much sleep as they should, and that school districts should do everything they can to avoid early morning activities and to push the start times back as far as they can. Because I was talking, I had that conversation, I was reviewing some of the scientific literature, and it's pretty compelling on that, so I was really interested.
Is that something that other board members would be interested in? Just a presentation on how we do the routes and starting times and those things. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. If people are interested in that, we could do.
Yeah,
do something.
Yeah, I'm down.
All right, get it on the books.
Monique, anything to share tonight? Who's first on my online list? Lisa, anything to share tonight?
No, I don't think I have anything tonight. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Nancy, anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, actually, thanks to everybody for another great meeting. I just wanted to kind of go back to what the PACs were talking about. And one of the things that I not noticed, but that I heard from both Mike and from Mark was that we want to have our parents deal with issues of student support at the local level, at the school level. And while I totally agree with that, I think that what they're looking for is to understand what happens when that doesn't work for them. And what we are, even on my day job, what we're finding is that if we create the pathways to escalation, then what we do is we create accountability on all levels. And so, not that I'm trying to incite people to go over the principal's head or go over a department head's head. I hate to say that, but I do want to make sure that you're hearing the ask. Because if you have a child that is experiencing micro or macro aggressions and or out and out like inappropriate behavior, if my only option is to tell the teacher and the teacher does nothing, then that doesn't help me. And so then the question is, if I then take it to a principal or someone else and they don't help me either, we want parents to feel empowered to try to have something else that they can do. So I think when I was asking for a pathway to escalation, not saying it has to go directly to Mike, that's not what I'm inferring, but with the great minds at this table, I think we can come up with an adequate way that parents can address a problem that they or their students are experiencing. I just wanted to make sure I put some intentional clarity behind my statement earlier. And as usual, thank you all very much for my patience. And Michelle, thank you for understanding that today was a prime example of what happens when we don't have enough transportation for our students. But we get through it. And I know you guys are doing everything that you can to make that happen. And I am completely 100% of us just going to all of the impacted staff and saying, this is what we offered. And I think you need to put some pressure on them to sign this thing so we can get this done. Thank you.
If somebody want to add that?
Sorry, can I just share with the board, and maybe you can look at this between now and the next meeting and let us know your thoughts. If you go to our website, our web address /complaint, there's a friendly link. It talks all about the complaint process, the levels of how one goes about filing a complaint, and then the contacts for escalation if that's needed. So I would invite everyone to take a look at that. And from the eyes of a parent, from the eyes of a community member. And if you have feedback on how we present that, please let us know how we can improve it.
Shannon, do you have anything you'd like to add tonight?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Erica, do you have anything you want to share?
Yes, sorry I couldn't be there in person today. I'm feeling a little under the weather, but thank you for all the information that was shared today and for the PACs presenting. I do agree, with Nancy about having like that pathway, and I understand that we have something online, but again, that's just assuming that people know where to go online, and that in itself can be a barrier. So figuring out, understanding where our communities and our families naturally receive information, which is through the schools, and how can we present that at a level that is more easily accessible to them. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thanks everybody. I'm looking forward to hopefully having lunch at school on Thursday, depending on hospital schedules and whatnot. I think Patrick, you're planning on joining me too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So all the board members, just a reminder that it is National School Lunch Week. And we have a little event planned for Thursday at Minter Bridge, right? Yeah, at Minter Bridge. So I know it's the middle of the day, but if you can make it out, come have lunch in the school with us at Minter Bridge Elementary. And then next week we have some of our coffee chats at our favorite locations. So come on, listen to Mike talk and watch me eat. That's pretty much what I do when I get there. And thanks everybody tonight, and we'll see you all in a couple of weeks. Our meeting is adjourned.